This is not a drill, this is not a test of the emergency broadcast system. What you're about to hear is a reality check, a glimpse behind the curtain of the world you think you know. You're living in the crosshairs, man. Every day, you walk through a landscape that's been mapped out, not just by city planners, but by people who want to tear it all down. It's a wild thought, I know. It sounds like conspiracy theory you'd hear from a guy in a tinfoil hat, but the evidence is there if you're willing to look. We're talking about a silent, invisible war being waged right under our noses in our own backyards. We got our hands on some crazy stuff. Declassified documents, whispers from inside the intelligence community, stuff the CIA and military probably wish had stayed buried forever. These aren't just hypotheticals or war games, man. This is the playbook. This is the blueprint for how a society can be dismantled from the inside out, piece by piece, without a single shot being fired until it's too late. It's a chilling realization when you start connecting the dots. The vulnerabilities aren't just out there in some war-torn country. They're the places you go to every single day. The coffee shop, the subway, the office building, they're all part of a grid, and that grid can be attacked. The idea of a sleeper cell, it's terrifying because it's so insidious. These aren't soldiers in a foreign uniform marching down Main Street. These are people who could be your neighbors. They learn the language, they get jobs, they blend in completely. They are patient. They wait for years, sometimes decades, for a single coded message, a single order to activate. And when that order comes, they are ready to exploit the soft underbelly of our modern world. They know our routines, our infrastructure, our weaknesses better than we do. It's a level of dedication that is both fascinating and absolutely horrifying to think about. Tonight we pull back the veil. We're going to expose the 20 sleeper cell attack zones hiding in plain sight. This isn't about fear-mongering, it's about awareness. It's about understanding the world we actually live in, not the sanitized version we're comfortable with. Because the first step to surviving any threat is knowing it exists. You have to be able to see the board to play the game. And right now most people don't even know they're a piece in a game that's already started. So buckle up, because what you're about to see might change the way you look at your city, your country, and your life forever. Alright, let's start with the absolute nerve centers of any major city, the transit hubs. We're talking about places like Grand Central in New York, Union Station in DC, or any massive subway interchange where thousands of people converge every single minute. These places are engineered chaos, a constant flow of humanity moving in a dozen different directions at once. To us, it's the daily commute, the rush to get to work or back home. To an enemy, it's the perfect theater for an attack. The sheer density of people is off the charts. You have an incredible concentration of civilians packed into tight, enclosed spaces, making them incredibly vulnerable. Think about the structure of these places. They are a labyrinth of tunnels, platforms, corridors, and stairwells. It's a three-dimensional maze that provides a terrifying advantage to an attacker who has studied the layout. They have countless ways to get in, plant a device, and then melt back into the crowd, disappearing long before anyone knows what happened. For law enforcement or first responders, it's a nightmare scenario. Trying to secure that kind of complex environment is damn near impossible. Every corner, every maintenance closet, every trash can is a potential threat, and the escape routes for the perpetrators are built right into the system they're attacking. They can just hop on a train and be miles away in minutes. The psychological impact is also a huge part of the strategy here. Attacking a transit hub doesn't just cause physical damage, it strikes at the very heart of a city's rhythm. It severs the arteries that keep the metropolis alive. The moment you make people afraid to take the train or the bus, you create paralysis. The economy grinds to a halt. People are trapped, unable to get to work, unable to get home to their families. It weaponizes the very infrastructure that's supposed to connect us, turning it into a source of fear and isolation. The chaos that would erupt is almost unimaginable, and you gotta consider the cascading effect. A coordinated attack hitting multiple hubs at the same time during peak rush hour? It's the kind of scenario that keeps counterterrorism experts up at night. It's not just one explosion, it's a series of events designed to overwhelm the system completely. Emergency services would be stretched thin, communications would break down, and panic would spread like wildfire through the underground tunnels. It's a calculated move to create maximum chaos with minimal resources, exploiting the trust we place in our public systems every single day. It's the ultimate soft target, hiding right there in our daily routine. Now let's talk about something most people drive by every day and don't even give a second thought to: a power substation. That fenced-in yard of humming transformers and giant circuit breakers. It looks boring, industrial, unimportant. But that's the whole point. These unassuming locations are the critical nodes, the vital organs of our entire civilization. You take out a few key substations and you don't just turn off the lights in a neighborhood, you can cripple an entire region. You plunge millions of people back into the dark ages instantly. It's a terrifyingly simple and effective strategy for a sleeper cell. Think about what happens when the power goes out. It's not just your TV and your microwave, it's everything. The communications network goes down. No phones, no internet. The water pumps stop working, no clean water. The traffic lights go black, causing immediate gridlock and chaos on the streets. Refrigeration fails, spoiling food and medicine. Banks can't operate. Gas stations can't pump fuel. The entire fragile ecosystem of modern life collapses in an instant. And these substations are often in remote locations protected by nothing more than a simple chain-link fence. They are incredibly vulnerable. A sophisticated team wouldn't even need a massive explosion. There was that attack in California back in 2013, the Metcalf sniper attack. Guys with rifles methodically shot out the coolant systems on 17 giant transformers. It was a well-planned military-style raid that almost took down Silicon Valley's power supply. It was a massive wake-up call. But how many of these thousands of substations across the country have been hardened since then? Not enough, man. A small dedicated cell could replicate that kind of attack on a much wider scale, creating a cascading blackout that could take weeks or even months to repair. The goal here is to create a long-term, society-level disruption. It's a silent attack that happens in the dead of night. Most people wouldn't even know what happened until they woke up to a dead world. The panic wouldn't be from a bomb, but from the slow, creeping realization that help isn't coming, that the systems we rely on have failed completely. It's a strategic move to break the will of a population, to create a state of desperation and chaos that makes a society vulnerable to whatever comes next. It's a quiet weapon with the power to cause more sustained damage than 100 bombs. Water. It's fundamental for human survival, right? But what if that source of life was turned into a weapon? These places are the invisible guardians of public health. That lack of public awareness is what makes them such a terrifyingly effective target. It's a silent form of warfare that doesn't require a single bullet to cause mass casualties. This is about sowing a deep primal fear into the very fabric of society. The idea is to poison the well, literally. It would be a slow, creeping horror. The panic that would ensue when the public realizes the water is a deadly poison. That's a level of societal breakdown that's hard to even comprehend. Security at these places. How robust is it really? The agents they could use are the stuff of nightmares, things you can't see, smell, or taste. By the time anyone figures out what's happened, thousands could be affected. It's a public health catastrophe that could cripple a city for months, if not years. Everything shuts down. You create a city under siege by an invisible enemy in their own pipes. It's a return to a primitive state of fear. It's absolutely chilling. Now let's shift gears to something just as fundamental to our modern world. Money. The economy. The financial districts of our major cities are the nerve centers of global capitalism. They are the symbolic and literal hearts of our economic stability. And that makes them a gigantic, glowing target for anyone who wants to bring Western civilization to its knees. When you think about attacking a financial district, most people probably picture a big, Hollywood-style explosion. But the real deep, long-term damage isn't just in the physical destruction, it's in the destruction of confidence. The end goal is to trigger a market crash, to wipe out trillions of dollars in wealth, to create a level of economic chaos that could rival the Great Depression. The threat isn't just physical anymore, it's digital. We're talking about a coordinated cyber attack, launched in conjunction with a physical event to maximize the chaos. It could be designed to manipulate trading data, erase records, or just shut the whole system down. Your savings, your retirement fund, your pension, it could all be wiped out in a matter of hours. The resulting depression could lead to mass unemployment, civil unrest, and geopolitical instability on a scale we haven't seen in generations. It's a terrifyingly efficient way to attack the core of a nation's power. There's something powerful about being in a massive crowd, all focused on one thing. The energy is electric, but that concentration of people, that shared vulnerability, is exactly what makes a major sports arena such a terrifyingly perfect target. It's a soft target on a massive scale. You have a captive audience, a fixed location, and the potential for maximum carnage and psychological impact. It's a pre-packaged nightmare just waiting for someone to light the fuse. These events are almost always broadcast live, sometimes globally. An attack wouldn't just be on the people in the stadium, it would be broadcast directly into the living rooms of millions. The goal isn't just to kill, it's to terrorize an entire population, and a stadium gives them the biggest stage in the world. The security is a nightmare. The very design of these places can turn them into death traps in an instant. The second wave is the fear that follows. The cultural and economic impact would be massive. You don't just break bodies, you break a society's spirit. You isolate them, and an isolated population is easy to control and terrify. Sleeper cells aren't just looking for a big boom, they want to dismantle our society, hitting us where we're safest. What's safer than a hospital? You go there when you're most vulnerable. Imagine turning that sanctuary into a war zone. It shatters the trust we have in systems designed to save us. A coordinated attack hits a stadium. The injured are rushed to emergency rooms. Then, a secondary attack hits the hospital. You prevent care and kill those who can help. Taking out a hospital cripples healthcare for an entire region. The panic is the real weapon. The one place that's supposed to help might be the most dangerous. A hospital is a perfect target. Let's get into the nervous system of our modern world. Communication. It all relies on a network of towers and satellites that we completely take for granted. What happens when you cut that cord? What happens when a coordinated group decides to blind an entire city? It's a strategic move that plunges society back into the dark ages instantly. No information in, no information out. Now imagine none of that works. It's complete and total information blackout. That isolation is a weapon, and it breeds fear. They're often completely unprotected. A few guys with some basic tools could cause an insane amount of damage. They'll hit dozens of them simultaneously to create a cascading failure across the entire network. This is about crippling the command and control structure of our entire society. You're kneecapping the authorities' ability to manage any other crisis that's happening. It's the first move on the chessboard. One thing you learn from studying conflict, from ancient warfare to modern MMA, is the importance of controlling the terrain. In a modern city, bridges and tunnels are the ultimate choke points. They connect our cities, allowing millions to move in and out daily. But they are also fragile bottlenecks. For a sleeper cell, they are valuable targets. It's not about destroying a city but trapping everyone inside. Tunnels are even more insidious. You've now plugged a major artery. The genius of this strategy is how it turns the city's infrastructure against itself. These symbols of progress become the bars of a cage. By taking out a few key bridges and tunnels, they can hold an entire metropolitan area hostage. Alright, let's get into the heavy stuff. Government buildings. You see these places, right? They look like fortresses. They got guys with guns, metal detectors, all this high-tech surveillance. You feel like you're entering a secure zone, like nothing could possibly go wrong, but man, that's the illusion. It's security theater. Think about the sheer number of people who go in and out of these buildings every single day. It's a constant flow, a logistical nightmare to track every single person, every single time, and that's where the vulnerability is. The real threat is already inside, carrying a mop bucket and a key card that gets them almost anywhere. It's a chilling thought, man. The enemy isn't at the gate, he's already in the building, cleaning the floors and waiting for the signal. It's not just about taking out a building, it's about striking at the heart of the system. It's a message. Your leaders can't protect you. The shopping mall, a modern town square and a temple to consumerism, but it's also a tactical nightmare. Designed to be open and inviting, it's a labyrinth with multiple entrances and sprawling parking lots. They're built to get as many people inside as possible, not to keep threats out. It's the definition of a soft target. They can move unnoticed, blending in as just another family. They can exploit the chaos and confusion. Normal activity provides perfect cover for their insane plans. The psychological impact is brutal. An attack isn't just on people, it's an attack on normalcy. The response would be pure pandemonium. It's a scenario designed for maximum chaos and casualties. They're trying to create a spectacle of horror, amplifying the terror 1,000 times over. Airports. We all know the security drill, but look at the whole system. The TSA checkpoint is just one layer focused on stopping weapons from getting onto a plane. What about the airport itself? The terminals, baggage claims, check-in counters? These are massive public spaces before security. That's the vulnerability. The target isn't necessarily the plane, but the airport itself. It's an international gateway. An attack here sends ripples across the entire world. The entire global aviation network can be thrown into chaos. It's a fundamental shift in thinking that most people don't consider. And you have to think about the insider threat. An airport is a city unto itself. They could gather intelligence and coordinate an attack from the inside. It's a terrifying prospect. It's an international crisis. The goal is to create this image of the United States under siege. It's a strategic checkmate. Alright, so let's talk about something most people drive past without a second thought. Rail yards. These sprawling networks of steel are the circulatory system of the country, man. It's not just about people getting from point A to point B on a commuter train. This is about the lifeblood of our economy, the goods, the materials, the raw resources that build our cities and stock our shelves. Imagine a coordinated strike on these places. It's not just one train derailing, it's a strategic strangulation. They could hit multiple yards at once, creating a catastrophic logistical nightmare that would take weeks, maybe months to untangle. The ripple effects would be insane. Think about the sheer scale of these operations. We're talking miles of track, countless switching points, and containers stacked as far as the eye can see. It's a complex, chaotic dance of heavy machinery and vital cargo. And security? It's a logistical challenge, to say the least. You can't put a fence and a guard tower on every single inch of track. A small, dedicated team could infiltrate these areas with relative ease, planting explosives or sabotaging critical switching mechanisms. They wouldn't even need massive bombs, just a few well-placed charges to derail a train carrying hazardous materials, and you've got an instant disaster zone right in the middle of a populated area. The chaos wouldn't just be about stopping goods, it's about the psychological impact. People would see the supply chains grinding to a halt, shelves in stores would start to empty out, fuel prices would skyrocket because the ethanol and crude oil aren't moving. It's a direct attack on the public's sense of stability and normalcy. You start messing with the fundamental flow of commerce and people panic. It creates a breeding ground for fear and uncertainty, which is exactly what these sleeper cells want. They want to turn the system against itself, to make us question the very infrastructure we depend on for our modern lives. And it's not just freight. Passenger rail is a huge vulnerability. Imagine a strike during rush hour, targeting multiple lines feeding into a major city. You're not just disrupting commutes, you're trapping hundreds of thousands of people. You're creating mass confusion and making it impossible for emergency services to move. It's a low-tech, high-impact strategy. A few people with some basic knowledge of the rail system could bring a whole region to its knees. It's a terrifyingly efficient way to sow chaos, using the very arteries of our nation to poison the entire system from within. It's wild to think about. Now we get into something truly primal. Something that taps into a fundamental fear, fire, and explosion. Oil refineries. These places are like man-made volcanoes, just waiting for the right catalyst. They are sprawling industrial complexes, a maze of pipes, pressure vessels, and storage tanks filled with millions of gallons of highly flammable material. A successful attack here isn't just about disruption. It's about unleashing a level of destruction that's hard to even comprehend. We're talking about a potential chain reaction of explosions that could level entire sections of a city and send a toxic black plume into the sky for days. The vulnerability here is just off the charts. These facilities are so complex, so massive, that securing every single point is a monumental task. A small, well-trained cell could exploit any number of weaknesses. They could use a drone to drop a small incendiary device onto a floating roof tank. They could infiltrate the perimeter and plant charges on critical pipelines or processing units. The goal isn't just to start a fire, it's to trigger a BLEV, a boiling liquid expanding vapor explosion. That's the real nightmare scenario. It's an instantaneous, catastrophic failure that releases a massive fireball with devastating force. The immediate aftermath is terrifying enough, but the secondary effects are where the real strategic damage lies. An attack on a major refinery, or a coordinated attack on several, would cripple the fuel supply chain overnight. Gas stations would run dry in a matter of days. The price of fuel would go through the roof, making it impossible for people to commute, for trucks to deliver food, for emergency services to operate. It's a direct shot to the heart of our mobility and our economy. Everything we do, everything we rely on, is tied to the energy these places produce. Taking them out is like pulling the plug on modern civilization. And then there's the environmental catastrophe. A major fire at a refinery would be an ecological disaster of epic proportions. We're talking about toxic smoke poisoning the air for miles around, forcing mass evacuations. We're talking about unburnt crude and chemical byproducts contaminating groundwater and soil for generations. It's not just a physical attack, it's a chemical and psychological one. It's a way to make the very air we breathe and the ground we stand on feel unsafe. For a sleeper cell, it's the ultimate terror weapon, visible, terrifying and with consequences that last for decades. Okay, so we've talked about physical infrastructure, but what about the invisible world that runs everything now? I'm talking about data centers. These nondescript, windowless buildings are the new Fort Knox. They are the physical brains of our digital world. Your bank account, your medical records, government secrets, the entire internet, the power grid controls. It all lives on servers humming away inside these climate-controlled fortresses. Most people don't even know where they are. But an attack on one of these could be more devastating than a bomb in a city square. It's a completely different kind of warfare. Think about what a coordinated physical attack on several key data centers would do. We're not just talking about a website going down. We're talking about the potential for a complete societal breakdown. Financial markets could be frozen or wiped out. Communication systems, cell phones, internet, everything could go dark. The logistics that run our shipping and supply chains would evaporate. It would be like hitting the reset button on society, but all the data gets corrupted in the process. It's the digital equivalent of burning the Library of Alexandria, but on a global scale. The chaos would be instantaneous and absolute. The methods of attack are terrifyingly varied. It could be a simple truck bomb driven into the side of the building to take out the power and cooling systems. It could be an insider threat, someone on the cleaning crew or a disgruntled employee who plants a device or simply unplugs the right servers. Or it could be something more sophisticated like an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse device. A localized EMP could fry every single piece of electronics inside one of these facilities without ever breaching the walls, rendering petabytes of critical data completely inaccessible, maybe permanently. It's a silent, invisible attack with apocalyptic consequences. And the scary part is, we've become so dependent on this centralized digital infrastructure that we've created a single point of failure on a civilizational level. We've traded resilience for convenience. In the old days, information was spread out, it was on paper in different locations. Now it's all concentrated in these handfuls of massive, high-value targets. A sleeper cell that understands this vulnerability doesn't need an army. They just need a plan, a few dedicated individuals, and the will to pull the digital plug on all of us. It's a chilling thought, man. The lights go out and the world we know simply ceases to exist. Everything arrives on massive ships, stacked high with containers. It all flows through these massive ports, gateways to the world. Securing every inch is impossible, a fundamental vulnerability built into global trade. Imagine a group who've studied this system, not to admire it, but to break it. They see ports as the soft underbelly of our civilization. If you choke off these arteries, the whole body starts to die. A cyber attack that scrambles, manifests, or a contaminant in containers could be catastrophic. The real nightmare is the quiet disruption. They learn the patterns, the blind spots, the exact time to strike. A port shutdown causes a domino effect of devastation. Our interconnected global economy becomes our most profound weakness. They're just waiting for the right moment to pull the plug. Schools are supposed to be safe, sanctuaries for learning and growth, but they represent something else entirely. The ultimate soft target. They're designed to be open and welcoming with dozens of entry points and minimal security. The psychological impact of an attack here is off the charts. It's designed to break our spirit. A small, coordinated team could create absolute mayhem, overwhelming any campus police force. The goal isn't just about the body count, it's about shattering the illusion of safety. It exploits our deepest, most primal protective instincts. An attack on a kindergarten is an attack on the future itself. We don't want to turn our schools into prisons, but that idealism is a vulnerability. They will force us to make impossible choices. In a civilized world, attacking places of worship would be unthinkable. Churches, synagogues, mosques, temples, they're the spiritual heart of communities, places of peace and sanctuary. For a sleeper cell, that vulnerability is a weapon aimed directly at the soul of a community. It's about igniting sectarian violence, turning neighbors against each other. They are trying to trigger a civil war. They can create fissures that crack the very foundation of our society. If they can make us hate our neighbors, they've already won. That's a war that nobody wins. So you're living the high life, literally. You're up on the 30th, 40th floor of some gleaming residential tower, looking down on the city like it's your own personal kingdom. But what you've really done is put yourself in a cage in the sky. They're vertical traps. Think about the sheer density of people packed into one single structure. It's a disaster waiting for a catalyst, and sleeper cells know this. High-density targets. Into a death trap, They understand the building's anatomy and turn that illusion of safety into a vertical nightmare. We'll think in 3 dimensions, into darkness and silence. Imagine the panic, effectively cutting the building in half. Designed to maximize chaos, it's a vertical battlefield becomes a fatal vulnerability where it feels safest. Let's talk about highways. Millions use these massive ribbons of concrete daily. It's the circulatory system of our society. But how fragile is this system? It's a massive vulnerability. What happens when the flow stops due to a deliberate stoppage? The whole system seizes up. It's a citywide cardiac arrest, and it could be so easy. Strategically disabled vehicles, a staged pileup, you've paralyzed a city. The chaos is the weapon, turning freedom into helplessness. Be aware. No alternate routes. How would you get out? Recognize the weaknesses. Let's talk about something right in your neighborhood. Power distribution nodes or substations. They're critical middlemen stepping down high-voltage electricity for your home. Without them, the lights don't turn on. Your suburban existence depends on these unassuming boxes. And most are totally unguarded. It's a massive vulnerability hiding in plain sight. A rifle could take one out in minutes. It's a terrifying thought that communities rest on something so easily accessible. A coordinated attack could plunge suburbia into darkness for weeks. These decentralized, unprotected nodes are a perfect example of asymmetric warfare. We've looked at the soft spots in the fabric of our society. Ignoring a potential threat doesn't make it go away. The world is a complicated and sometimes dangerous place, and there are people out there who want to exploit these vulnerabilities to cause chaos and fear. The first step in protecting yourself, your family, and your community is acknowledging that the unthinkable is in fact thinkable. It's about replacing that fear with preparation and awareness. The real first line of defense is you. Stay alert, know your surroundings, prepare for the unthinkable, have an emergency plan, know your exits, stock supplies, stay informed, and above all, trust your instincts.